Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Boyle. I'm the Executive Director with Autism BC. This month, our social media is focusing on the theme, Amplifying Autistic Voices, and we're chatting with lots of different autistics across the province and across the country to share their stories, their key messages, their experiences. And today, we're really excited to be here with Suzanne Perreault. She has been an advocate for the autism community for quite a long time. And I'm going to let her introduce herself. But I just wanted to say we're really excited to have you, and we're excited to chat about her experience working with trauma and also focusing in on some of her key messages around language. So Suzanne, I want to pass it over to you. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about who you are and your autism journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this conversation. It's really important that you guys are doing that, and I extend my thanks to you for that and advocating for and with us. I'm a counselor. I'm a parent. I'm a parent of 3 children who are on the spectrum. I myself identify on the spectrum. I'm almost 50 and came into my own personal journey in my early 40s. My whole journey into advocacy really began when my children were quite small. They're young adults now. So I've been doing this for 20 years easily. And knowingly, not realizing I was doing it when I was smaller already. That's a whole nother conversation. So I am a counselor, became a counselor because of this conversation. I'm also a school trustee, and I spend a lot of work also educating and working with educators in various school districts across the province, as well as I've been into universities working with students getting ready for their work in the helps industry. So physiotherapy, education, social work, stuff like that. And that conversation specifically in that area is seated deeply in the conversation of trauma. When I go into our schools throughout the province, it's around the conversation of inclusion and what does that look like? What does it mean for them? And how can educators and schools work with our families?
At Autism BC, we all are, or maybe I'll just speak for myself, I often see kind of a gap between the autistic experience and then the parent experience. And a lot of the learning that takes place is building that bridge between the two so that a parent can understand their child, and then, as a child gets older, the child can understand their parent and the decisions that the parent made as well. And because you're an autistic parent, you kind of you're in this unique position to kind of sit in the middle of that bridge of understanding both experiences. So I don't really have a clear question, but I was wondering if you could speak to, like, if you were to think of yourself as an autistic child, what is it that you wish your parents could have known about you at that time to have helped you?
That's a really powerful question that triggers, there's that word, lots of emotion for me, because I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and during that time, especially with, I used to be a kiddo that rocked. I rocked, I hid under things, I hid in small places, under my bed, I slept between my bed and the wall, I slept in the closet, talked a lot, had lots of questions. I was that child that talked. And really struggled with eye contact. And my home wasn't a passive home. I came from a high poverty home. Lots of statistics that I fell into that people don't want to be in. And, if I could go back, it would probably just, if they understood, period, that I was neurodiverse and be able to respond accordingly with acceptance and allow me to navigate my world the way I needed to. That's what I want parents to do, right? I want us to accept our kids for who they are and celebrate that. Celebrate your child, celebrate children. I understand you get a kiddo like me who has, more than her 25,000 words a day to share, it's exhausting. I understand that's tiring, especially during COVID. But there's outlets, and there's ways that we can really reframe things without causing emotional damage to people. And because little children grow up to be adults, and adults end up exercising what was put on their heart. And it takes a lot of self-reflection to undo damage that we do as parents to our children. We're all, I make the common joke with my kiddos. We all laugh because we're an autistic family, right? I trip walking down the hallway. Walk down the hallway 100 times, but I can trip and fall, and I fall going up the stairs all the time, right? We make jokes about it. So we have fun with each other, and we get it. Each of us gets it. I stutter when I'm exhausted. I start stuttering a lot. But, at the end of the day, it's celebrating each other and going, okay, there's some things that I need to work on, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean I have to conform. And I never called my kids to conform. I called them to be who they are, and did my best to draw out of them their gifts and abilities so they can walk in pride in that. And that's difficult to do, and it requires a lot of paying attention. And so for parents, I would want them to pay attention carefully. That kiddo who knows a lot about the stars, you might be onto something. The one that knows a lot about chickens, they might be onto something, you know what I mean? And that becomes their gifts. It's very interesting. So I would want us to pay attention to it. And if we can't look at you in the eye, that's okay. It doesn't mean we're lying or we're disrespecting you or whatever. It just means it hurts. It's uncomfortable. It takes me away from my thoughts, and I can't answer you properly because I'm too busy trying to hold contact with you. So it's learning to understand who we are. I think that's really what's important. And if my family understood that growing up, I think some pieces would have been much easier for me, without a doubt. And that moving forward, I took that into practice as an autistic parent with my children. I instinctively did things with them. I've never had supports in my home. I did it all myself. I did all the training. I did all the speech language, all the OT, all of it. I did it. At one point, my one child lost speech for a while, and I figured out how to teach him how to talk again, just instinctively, and celebrating who he was, regardless. And I think that's the big piece. We celebrate each other, right? We all have purpose regardless of what we bring to the table. And that has worth. It's human dignity.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, I liked your comment about how you guys can laugh with each other and share some humor in those moments. And I think that's really healing as well, and a really positive thing to have. There's so many serious conversations to have, and trauma is obviously a very serious issue, but trying to find those moments of humor and sharing in those moments is really, really healing as well. I was wondering if you would mind sharing a little bit about your journey with autism, and when you came to realize that you were autistic. And I think you said that you weren't formally diagnosed. Is that correct?
Correct. I self-identify. When my first child that got diagnosed, he was my middle child. And so it kind of all went in reverse order. And my eldest is a female, and we missed her. Surprise. Didn't figure that one out till she was 15 and a half. And that was around the same time I figured myself out, when I was 43. And that came to bear when I was going through a traumatic experience where my marriage of almost 20 years dissolved suddenly. And a lot of regression occurred. And and as things were occurring, I was like, "Whoa, I've been here before. I've been here before. I've been here before." And all these light bulbs started going off, and I had to really go, "What is this? I know this. I've been here." And it took me back, and lots of windows started opening up, and I was like, "Wow, this is really profound, and this is why I do this, and this is why I do this." And at that time, we were only starting to have the conversation around female autistic traits, and so I just started making lists, because that's what I do. I pervase, and just started examining myself a lot. And without a doubt, because we haven't met that conversation of inclusion well. At that time, I didn't talk to anybody about it. I let my kid's father know, hey, this is what I'm processing. And he laughed and said, well, of course you are. I was like, oh, okay. I thought it was you, right? But that began to unfold to a place of realization. And in fact, on my TED Talk was the first time I announced it. The night before, I wrestled with myself going, if I'm going to have this conversation publicly at this level, I need to be a face. I need to have the courage, whatever that meant, to step out into that conversation with my face on and take the mask off. And it was very difficult because I was very ill at the time. I was in the hospital 24 hours after that TED Talk because of an illness that I was wrestling with at the time, a very serious one. And so the journey has been really interesting. One goes through, not everybody, but certainly some of us go through, especially as adults, because it's been kind of like beaten into us. You're just, you're annoying, you're this, you're that, you're too much, you're too whatever, right? That you're trying to undo all those wirings and go, well, actually, this is an autistic trait. Actually, that's what this is. Oh, this is sensory processing. Oh, this is that. And trying to undo and redo and reconcile with self is a very emotional process. It's liberating, but it's difficult. And doing it as a late adult and having that, like one of the worst things I think I hear people saying is, well, you don't look autistic.
Yeah.
Right? And then I go, whoa, okay, I can't even enter into that conversation, or we're all a little bit autistic. And so those statements become a challenge for me because of how I function. I know other autistics who are very similar to me, and we're all different, right? Yet we're all different. My eldest is very, very similar to me, except they're very creative, and I couldn't, I can do words. I can't do art. I can't do math. I can do words. So just that unlayering of self, it's a lot of heavy lifting, and it really demands safe community around you and people who will support you during those aha experiences, because it's not easy, and it can be lonely, and it can be scary. At the same time, exciting to kind of go, wow, this is why I do what I do. Wow, okay, that's really cool. I get it now, and I'm okay. Right? And that's that safe language again.
Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah, I can't imagine what a profound experience it would be to kind of, come out as an autistic person during your TED Talk. That would be, undoubtedly a very stressful time, just doing a TED Talk in general, and then adding that to the conversation at the time. That would have been a big night for you. Yeah, I can imagine.
It was. My mentor, Maria LaRose, I spoke with her in confidence prior and asked her thoughts, and she's like, it's who you are. It's okay. You're safe. And that was really key for me. That gave me the courage, right? And again, it's language. You're safe. It's who you are. You're okay. Right? Otherwise, I don't know. If someone would have said, well, I don't know, if they would have went, I don't know if you should do that, I might have just beat to that drum. Right?
Yeah, but you found the courage, and that's really tremendous.
Yeah, it's hard. It was hard, without a doubt. But we're now here, so we're in a very new place now. I don't really have a problem, and I use it as my tool to advocate louder. Actually, now I'm like, hey, wait, whoa, you can't do that. I'm here. See me now. Yeah.
That's great. I know you do a lot of work trying to prevent, identify, and also heal trauma. Can you tell us a little bit about what your understanding of trauma is?
Yeah, it's a really big conversation that weaves in and out of our community. And simply put, trauma is a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. So when we look at the various elements of what trauma could be, when we're thinking of diagnostic criterias, it could be divorce in a family, separation. It can be emotional abuse, sexual abuse. It could be a parent being incarcerated. It's hunger. ongoing need for finding those basic necessities, food, clothing, those attachments, alcoholism, drug abuse. So those are a lot of our common conversations. What I really tackle a lot is the trauma that as autistics we experience. And that's a very important conversation because of how our sensory input gets impacted so heavily and drastically, especially when we're younger, before we're learning to regulate, right? So many of our little people are expected to understand how to regulate their emotions and their behaviors, and that sensory overload and that assault that's happening to them, whether it's verbal or it's the lights like this one shining on my face, frequent demands, constant transitions, cause us to have shutdowns and move to meltdown. So the shutdown is really where we're on overload and we're not really able to take too much more. And that meltdown is a very different experience. And when that happens, that's a deeply disturbing, distressful experience. You imagine a child in a classroom having a meltdown in front of their peers and being mishandled, right? And being seen as violent or disobedient, disrespectful, dishonorable, whatever the dis is, whatever, right? Whatever the adjectives are we want to wrap around it, versus going, I'm not coping well and I don't know how to articulate it, because they haven't been given that language, they haven't been given the tools, and nor have they even begun to learn how to self-regulate, whatever that means in that child's world. So when those situations are occurring frequently, which they often do, trauma occurs. And then it gets deeply seated in the bed of shame, because now we're having the conversation of, I'm not enough. And although the child moving into adolescence doesn't understand that language necessarily, they understand the feeling. And then that feeling ends up following them, and it ends up becoming part of their own self-narrative of how they think about themselves, how we engage the world, and how we even allow the world to engage us. And we become very vulnerable as a person as a result. So trauma in itself is a very large piece. And then when we kind of bore down into our community and try to have the conversations of what does this mean for inclusion, we can't have that one conversation without the other.
Yeah. So kind of putting this experience you're describing of trauma, the experience of trauma by autistic children and in the autistic community, and then the work that you're doing in the schools, how is it that you advocate for autistic kids in the autistic community that are having these types of experiences? How do you make the shift from this kind of a situation?
It's a very difficult one. I think, I had a really significant aha experience processing this in my advocacy work. I was really pushing on the conversation for many years about inclusion. What does inclusion mean? I did a TED Talk on it to educators, really based around the IEP meeting process. And how do we work towards collaboration? How do we understand what's happening? And as I started navigating, I realized most of us, unfortunately, we don't want to hear about it, like society. So I started reframing and looking at it from the lens of trauma, going, okay, well, if we're not willing to accept the conversation in its entirety, what does inclusion mean? Are, the intention's there, but the practice isn't. It's not there well enough. We're moving way too slow. I've been advocating for 20 years. Our movement is slow. I haven't seen a huge, in 20 years, I'm still advocating for the same things. But when I start thinking about the trauma piece and going, let's start talking about that. Let's start talking about trauma, how it impacts all of us, right? All of us are coming to the table with certain levels of impact. And so trying to find ways to help others understand what does that mean for them, and therefore how does that interface with leading children and youth. And so I fold that into my counseling work with parents and the youth that I work with, working with them on their triggers. At first, identifying what is trauma with them in their world. That's the big piece. What is trauma for you? And what does that look like, without diving in and out deeply into it, because we don't need to sit in people's trauma. It's dangerous, right? It's not a very healthy practice. But identifying what's going on with our body, our triggers, and what are some relatable tools. The other piece, as I mentioned before, is going into doing workshops with educators and administrators. My work as a trustee, the only reason why I pushed myself towards becoming a trustee is to increase that advocacy voice. It's been one of the most challenging things I've ever done on my personhood as an autistic individual. And that goal there again was to go, how can we penetrate top down if we can, through policies and procedures and practices. And then finally, the other piece that I engage in is my volunteer work with BCEdAcess. That is a Facebook community group, but it's also an advocacy group provincially now. And we've done a lot of really great work with the strong leadership of Tracy Humphreys and advocating for how do we tackle these conversations. So I'm trying to come into it from a lot of different angles, and it's really about switching the conversation and marrying inclusion with trauma and going, we need to look at the whole because the impact is so profound.
So I have a little bit of a follow-up question, if you don't mind. In the work that you've done, do you have any kind of positive examples of when you've been able to make a shift in a classroom or within a family? And what do you feel like were the reasons why that positive shift could take place?
Yeah, absolutely. I would need to speak vaguely to other people's stories because I need to protect their privacy. So without a doubt, teaching what's going on in the body is the big piece. Helping firstly educators, because that's who I tackle on large quantity, right, in terms of numbers at once. And so it's teaching what's going on in our body, and it's that check your trauma piece. What's going on with you? Where are you at? What are you feeling? Our body will always respond before our mind does. We're always going to feel it first. Our heart rate's going to increase. Our blood sugar may drop. Our hands may get tight. Our hands may get sweaty. We may stutter, right? There's a whole bunch of different things. Some people's throat gets tight. Some people's hearts get tight. Their chest gets tight. Their breathing becomes shallow or rapid. So it's helping people understand themselves first. And that's been really like from the education piece going into the districts. That's been the biggest one, is helping educators go, stop, pause, reflect, right? Take a breath, pause, reflect, and now let's seek information first versus reacting. So when we go into reaction mode, we're not pausing to think about what's going on with that child. And therefore, we're making assumptions based on the narrative of behavior that we have historically evaluated as disobedient, disrespectful, all those things.
Yeah, I guess my next question is around language. I know in your TED Talk and also in previous conversations I've had with you, you talk a lot about the importance of language. And I guess I just wanted to ask, like, what language is meaningful to you in your own life or in the life of your kids and your family? What language do you prefer, and why is that meaningful to you?
That's a good question. You're right, language is really important to me. Language wraps around our relationships, and it impacts our development of character, our heart, and giving us an opportunity to look forward and hope and security. And so language becomes a really important aspect of who we are and how it frames us and frames our sense of security and how we move forward. So when I work, and I'm going to use my story with my children because I can speak freely to that without compromise. When I worked with my children's educators, I've always spoke with them at the level of saying, we need to get his heart or their heart first before we get their mind. And we do that through relationship. We do it through empathy. We do that through understanding. We do that through acceptance and inserting those supports. And often you can do it is great language for our kids, especially. And I focus heavily on kids because that's where my heartbeat is. So ensuring that we're focusing around empathy in terms of care, right? And you know, when I work with my own children, you know, some people might have, and I've been chastised for it, but I've told my kids, I'm not going to enable you to be disabled. I'm going to not let the world take you down with bad language. You can do it. I believe in you. Whatever it is, right? You can be the best you can be, whatever that is. And when they really grappled with understanding that initially, I kind of talked with them about, you know, how we have good days and bad days. And in our good days, we can do really great things and we feel like we're a superstar and that level of success is there. And in our bad days, we don't feel great about ourselves. But that doesn't mean we can't still be the best me I can be. And so that's the kind of stuff that I work with a lot is learning how to reframe what we're thinking with our children, especially in our youth, to go, no, you can do this. There's no reason why it's not in your capacity, whatever that is for that person, right? Like each individual is measured according to their gifts and abilities. I can't do math. You give me math with numbers in it, numbers and words together. I literally, my brain shuts down and I go to a place of trauma. I freeze and I start stuttering and I get frustrated. And it doesn't bring out the best me I can be. It's not where I shine. But if you give me words, then suddenly I can dissect so much and you'll see me light up. And so how do we figure out how to capture each other's heart with safe language of acceptance? And I really struggle I struggle a bit with the whole concept of, you know, acceptance even, because it kind of polarizes against inclusion. Acceptance to me means I tolerate you, I accept you. I struggle with that. So language is really, really a sensitive conversation, and how we work with our children in the reframing of, you know, why did you do that versus let me help you examine what happened here, right? Like it's just a reframing using, you know, declarative language versus directive. Stuart Shanker does a really great job on that reframing conversation on how to reframe what we're doing with our kids and stepping away even from where we are in trauma, because often our language is going to mirror what our body's doing. And so everything goes back to that conversation of where are you at, what's happening? Because, you know, if I'm having a bad day and I'm on the verge of a meltdown, what's coming out of my mouth isn't going to be as nice as what is on a good day. Mm-hmm. So it's understanding those pieces about ourselves and then moving forward.
I guess I have another follow-up question, if you don't mind. If I am an individual where I'm kind of in this conversation or I'm in this relationship or engagement with someone, and I can tell it's not going well, I can tell that there's something that is not constructive about what is happening. And perhaps I've triggered the other person, or perhaps we are in a conflict, or we're, you know, edging towards a meltdown or whatnot. What are the things that I could do to support that situation better, and try to reorient that situation to get it back on track? Like, what are I know you said you could stop and pause and reassess rather than just reacting, which is challenging at times, but it is something that I believe you can learn. Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give, or tips would you give to help start building that skill?
It's a really important question, and you did answer it, actually. It is really the pausing. It's a pausing, and it takes an incredible amount of, for some people, humility, for some people, pure practice, to go, oh, this conversation isn't going where I thought it was going to go. I'm seeing your hurt. And then to pause in ourselves to go, oh, I need to reframe for this person, help scaffold around that. So in a role-playing situation, it'd be like, okay, I'm offending you right now, and I'm not realizing I'm offending you. And that's something Suzanne does frequently because I speak so plainly. And because my thoughts are moving so fast, things come out and I haven't buffered it. well enough yet. I've learned so much since my youth to buffer, that whole buffering piece. But sometimes I speak so plainly, people are like, whoa. And then I got to go, oh, right? I've offended you. When we're in those situations, it's really the stopping and pausing. And when we're working with youth and children, it's like remove all stressors immediately, like back off, recognize and acknowledge, wow, I see you're not feeling good about where this is going, or right, like we're acknowledging their feelings. That goes back to the beginning where we started, is where's their heart, what's going on with them. I see you're feeling hurt, or I see you might be angry. Can you help me understand that? Is that something you want to move further into, or should we pause? Right, give that voice back to the person. It's so important. Often as leaders, we take voice away from those who are younger than us that we're leading, by virtue of thinking leadership is hand over versus hand under, and putting ourselves in a servant position. And so to pause and go, how can I help you? And do you need a break? Often for us, that moment of dysregulation, it's too much coming too fast, too many decisions, too many demands. Maybe the demands aren't too heavy, but there's lots of sensory input happening. So there's a variety of different things that always need to be assessed by the speaker. And that person really has to be cognizant of themselves and what's going on in the environment in order to engage that empathy towards the receiver of the conversation.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And then I guess like another part of that would be, how do you start to identify when that's happening? So how can you start to identify when someone's being triggered, or someone is heading towards a meltdown, or how do you get that curiosity burning early on so that you can kind of prevent and redirect sooner? Right. Because sometimes it can be hard to tell when you're triggering a trauma, or when someone is getting dysregulated. It can be hard to identify whether that's happening or not, especially if you're new to that kind of work. So what are some ways to be able to tell, like to start to learn what those, I guess, yeah.
So obviously each of us are different. And it's really important to know who your audience is to the best of your ability. Somebody might be meeting someone for the first time, and so it's really tough. You just got to really pay close attention to body language. Body language tells us an awful lot. If we're looking at a school setting, I would encourage every parent of a child to write out all about me and submit it. And an all about me is like, where do I succeed? What do I respond well to? And what does it look like when I'm starting to struggle? So one of my children, when he was struggling, and it took me a while to figure this out, he would put his finger in his eye like this, right? And I would, when I was watching him, I always thought initially he was just rubbing his eye. And then I realized he was self-harming. So putting a lot of pressure in there to distract from the feeling that was going on in his body to prevent a meltdown. And so that's one cue, right? There's these pieces where, picking skin, pulling on the hair, picking on the scalp, biting a lip, biting fingernails, eyes, pupils getting dilated, someone stuttering suddenly, slowing down in conversation, disassociating, kind of like checking out, shallow breathing. You're going to see the chest, like not taking regular breaths. So those are a number of different cues that we will show. And again, each individual will have their own body language and their response mechanism. Some people grab their shirt and chew on it. There's a number of different things. Those are often the moments where we go, we need to stop everything, pull all stressors off, and reframe. Do we go, stressors off, time for a break, let's reorganize, and then come back? And how does that come back look like? If we continue going, it can become dangerous for an autistic individual to have a meltdown, and that's where the impacts of trauma occur. One time I had my youngest he locked himself in a bathroom when we went away on holidays, and it didn't have those pinholes to get into the bathroom. And that was a very dangerous situation. He was only between 7 and 8 years old. And I couldn't get in for an hour and a half while he was having a full-on meltdown. Yeah. We need to pay attention to that. And that was in the middle of the night, and I didn't even know that one was coming. Everybody was in bed sleeping. And so there's those moments of dysregulation that can occur where, shut down, go into meltdown, and then we've dropped, and then all of a sudden it's just done. It's they're I have no idea to this day, because he's so small, he's never been able to articulate what happened. But it was at 2 a.m. I heard him in the bathroom screaming, and then away we went. And for the next few hours, trying to get him out of there safely while trying to encourage him not to hurt himself, right? Mm-hmm. So the cues beforehand can be significant, or they can be subtle, like, my boy going like this, me thinking he's just rubbing his eye and it's itchy, and then later going, oh, wait a minute, that's deep pressure he's doing, and that's not good, right? That's him giving a cue, and I need to pay attention, and I now need to share that with his educators to make sure that when that occurs, under no circumstances, all pressure is removed. Give him a break, right? Give him that voice so that he can get himself regulated and care for himself, do that self-care piece.
Could you explain a little bit from your understanding what's happening in those meltdown moments, like physiologically or whatnot, that's causing that trauma, and why is that so dangerous, and why is it so important that we try to prevent that from happening?
Well, everybody, we all experience it different. If I was to reflect back to when I was a child, it's complete. It's just everything's cut off, right? Like you no control of the emotion. Even if you wanted to, you can't. So in the moment, for some, it even feels good to have that release occurring, right? It's like, and you get exhausted. It's like, it's done. But the coming out of it is where the trauma comes, right? It's that there's an impact on the brain that's occurring when trauma is happening, right? So our brain, has the synapses, they're coming together, the neurons are talking, whatever, everything is doing its thing. And then you have this experience occur, which creates a firestorm in the brain. And so that firestorm is toxic to the brain because it's releasing chemicals to the body. Your belly's getting full of toxins, your body's on overload, right? It's in fight, flight, freeze. And then you're coming out and you got to physically heal from that. And then you got to face your environment and go, am I good enough to be back in this space? And really that relationship piece, going back to that heart, capturing people's hearts, capturing our children's hearts, is so critical that we master being present, right? Versus controlling, because that control piece exasperates it. So it's really, at the end of the day, that the attachment piece versus a detachment, and that's trauma, right? Attachment in the heart versus detachment. I am attached to, I feel safe. I'm detached. I have to be aware. I have to be cautious. I'm paranoid. I don't trust you. I'm watching all your moves. I'm becoming hypervigilant. I won't share with you. Versus that leader who is like, wow, that was so hard. I'm sorry you had to experience that. And I just want you to know you're safe, and we're here with you and for you. And what can we do to help you? And right, whatever it is that moment needs. And it's that experience that becomes the pivotal opportunity for healing and recovery, or shame to occur, and a person to go, I don't feel enough. I'm not included. I'm not part of this. And I can't be part of this. I can't be a good friend. I can't be whatever, a good student, right?
It sounds like you're talking almost like there needs to be some kind of process to reconcile with the environment afterwards, or with the social dynamic, or with the individual. What are the key things you kind of spoke just briefly to, some language that someone could use, that if you've had a student or a child or a friend, who's gone through that meltdown and now kind of needs to reintegrate again into the group dynamic or into the relationship, what are some ways to kind of promote reconciliation in a way that's healing?
Restoration and reconciliation is definitely the foundation, and it can't be reactive, meaning not doing it after it happened. Start the process before, when we know we have vulnerable persons present, that we can experience a situation at an unknown prescribed time, that we're educating. Education is such a, and that's why I push after the education system. Education is such a key component to this whole conversation. When we think of the LGBTQ plus community and SOGI, and I want to just go there for a quick second, when we look at how we have successfully been able to introduce it at the primary level, so that the community is safe in its environment, in our environment, right? Like, we can go into the classroom as children, or children who have parents of, whatever, the conversation's there and dialogue can occur freely and safely. We're not there yet with our community. We don't have that, and I don't like the word, the integration occurring properly yet at the primary and preschool level, where we're going, hey, you might see this happen in your school, in your classroom. It might happen with your friend. It might happen with you. You might experience these feelings, and it's okay. You're okay, right? We need to know when we're having a bad day, we're still okay. And when we wrap language and community and education around that, then we can start moving forward. That doesn't mean we don't have limits on behavior, that's deliberate. But when we're looking at a situation where a child is overstimulated, too much pressures, whatever has occurred, maybe stuff's going on at home and it flowed over in the classroom, whatever, we need to be cognizant of those things, and get our ear closer to the ground, and begin the education process sooner, so that when that restoration reconciliation does need to occur, now we've created the foundation. Go, this is what it looked like for those who had bore witness, and for the child or individual who experienced it, they can be safe, right? And that's really what we all are asking for. We're asking to be safe and to be a part of the community, and to be included, right? At the end of the day, and we're not included if we're not safe, period. If there's no safety, whether it's psychologically, emotionally, physically, otherwise, we're not included. And that's really where the seat of human dignity occurs, and that's the conversation we need to have.
I like how you wrap that up. Yeah, that's a really powerful message. Thank you. I guess just to kind of end the conversation, what would be your take-home message for the autism community, or for anybody watching, really? What are the key lessons or advice or tips or just messages from your own experience that you'd like to share?
Yeah, honor yourself, trust your voice, and don't underestimate the power that you have been given. We've each been born with a purpose and a plan, right? We're not here by accident, and we've got gifts and abilities to offer. Once upon a time, as a child, all my report cards was, I went by the name Susie, so it was, she talks too much. If Susie would stop talking, her grades would be better. Susie stopped talking, blah, blah, whatever, fill in the blank. And it was constant, right through school. And it ended up being my gift, actually. It ended up being what I thrive really well in. And so trust what you've been given. And together, we get to create inclusion by doing that. And my final punctuating thought is, I want us all to move beyond acceptance. I want us to all be included, and that's where inclusion matters, right? Moving beyond acceptance to inclusion. And once we move up that Maslow's ladder, then we've got the conversation really going.
Yeah, well, we wish you the very best of luck. Thank you so much for chatting with us and sharing your experience and sharing your passions, the things that are really important to you, the good work that you're doing. And we hope that we'll be able to chat with you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you for the privilege of being present with you today.
Thank you so much.
Take care.